Hey guys, Meteorologist Chris Tomer here. I know it's been a while, but now that we're starting to get back into the fall and the winter season ahead, we'll start doing these mountain weather updates more and more often. And we actually have a cold front. This is the first strong cold front of the fall season. That'll roll through Utah, Wyoming, and Colorado. Most of the impact will be in Colorado in terms of snow, but we're going to see a 15 to 30 degree temperature drop across the board. Lighter amounts of snow in Utah and Wyoming, heavier accumulations in the central to northern mountains of Colorado. All this happens 10-11 to 10-12. I did write about it this morning on my blog. If you're not familiar with this, christomer.com, and I write this throughout the fall and winter typically and use it as sort of a complement to these videos that I do, these video forecasts. But here it is. You can see cold front delivers snow to Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, 10-11 to 10-12. So I always do some sort of an abstract or a bit of a discussion as to what I think is going to happen. I look at the jet stream, almost every update. That's one of the keys. I look at moisture. We'll take a closer look at these in just a minute. I have a snow forecast, and as the season progresses, these maps will get more detailed. This is really an overview period right now with this first cold front, but you can kind of see what's going on there. And then I do a snapshot. I've got a high peak forecast: Grand Teton, Kings Peak, Maroon Bells, Mount of the Holy Cross, Quandary Peak, Longs Peak, and I have a forecast radar, future cast type of thing, what's going to happen over the next 5 days, rain and snow. So we'll look at all that in this update. My first stop is this. This is water vapor satellite. So the oranges and reds represent the drier air aloft. Your moisture are the whites and the blues. And I'll just mark it. There's your active northern branch of the jet right there. And you can see the low, another low right here, another low behind it. This will be the action. This is going to be the action. All this is going to drop down with the jet and affect Utah, Wyoming, Colorado. Those are the three areas, the three states I'm focusing on in this update. Although it will have impact across the Pacific Northwest and BC as well as all of this moves onshore. All right, so let me show you first how this is going to play out on the forecast, radar, and satellite. So this is our current phase. Tomorrow morning at 6, moving into the Pacific Northwest, a lot of rain. That's the green. Then it begins to make its move down into the interior Rockies. So this is 4:15 p.m. on Wednesday. Some snow through the Tetons, the Wind Rivers, and the high Uintas. Still a little bit too warm elsewhere, but the snow levels will be falling. All right, so here we go into Thursday morning. And by Thursday morning at 6 a.m., snow through parts of the Wasatch, although it's going to be pretty light. Snow through the remainder of Wyoming. Snow into the central to northern mountains of Colorado. Rain across Denver and the Front Range at lower elevations. Here we go. By the time we get into Thursday afternoon, you can see the projection. And then by the time we get into Friday, the storm is departing. Wraparound snow in Colorado comes to an end Friday afternoon. So that's the way the storm system plays out in time. It is mainly a 10-11 to 10-12 type of storm system. All right, let's look at some of the details. Some of the forecast details here. Jet stream on 10-12. Nice big dip that originated in the Pacific Northwest, traverses across Utah, Wyoming, and by 10-12, it helps to spin up an area of low pressure, and you can kind of see it northeast Colorado, up into parts of Nebraska. The Black Hills of South Dakota are going to probably get 6 to 12 inches of heavy, wet snowfall out of this. But what that low does is it kind of crosses Wyoming and brushes Utah and Colorado as it delivers snow accumulation. Like I was talking about, it also raises the prospect of higher humidity and moisture content. And so this is about a 10,000 foot level in the atmosphere, and you can see the darker colors. Basically, the central to northern mountains of Colorado, across the Front Range of Colorado, higher humidity that's going to push these humidities up to about 100% at 10,000 feet. So that'll give us good snow projection and incursion into the foothills, the 14ers. Everybody should see snow at the higher elevations, and we'll initially see rain with this at a lot of places. A lot of the valley floors will see rain. Aspen, Vail, they'll all start as rain. Steamboat looks to stay mostly rain because you're at a lower elevation. But if you're at 8,000 feet or higher, you'll probably see a changeover to rain, snow, and then all snow through Aspen, Vail, through the course of this into the early morning hours of 10-12. It should be mainly snow in those places, but it probably stays rain in Steamboat and a lot of those towns that are at the lower elevations, mainly going to see rain. All right, so there's moisture content. Here's my forecast. Now, a couple of caveats with this. I went ahead and threw some numbers on this. The map I put on my blog doesn't have numbers. It just gives you the contours. So where you see the deeper blues, that's about a 4 to 8 inch swath. If you were to see the magentas, that's 6 to 12. But what you see happening in the mountains of Colorado, this time of the year, you really have to cut some of this off and take a percentage off. I don't know, it could be 30% off these numbers. But generally, you can see what's happening here. Central to northern mountains of Colorado get the most, 4 to 8 inches for most places. The high peaks could get more. The 13ers and the 14ers could get more. Lighter amounts in Wyoming, lighter amounts in Utah, but nonetheless, it does look like we're going to see some snow out of this. Really the first strong cold front of the fall season. We'll probably start to see these every few days as we slide into November with a lot more wind energy, and certainly that's going to be the case. And I got to tell you, I mean, if you haven't looked at my my long-range winter forecast yet, definitely check that out. It's in this list of videos on my YouTube channel. I think we could see some big months ahead for the southern tier. We're going to see a powerful subtropical jet. So take a look at that forecast if you haven't seen it. But as always, thank you for tuning in here to this mountain weather update. Always appreciate it, and take care.